and saying, God, I don't just want to do things for you. I want to do things with you. That part that shifted in me as a pastor and a communicator, speaker, whatever you want to label it, that's when everything started to change. And seeing the impact that that had on individuals' lives is mind-blowing and also fun.
Welcome to the podcast that helps speakers and writers like you grow their impact and income. This is Stage, Page, and Screen. As a believer, how do you balance, the message that you're going around sharing at churches and Christian organizations? That message is not about you, right? It's about the Lord. But the marketing necessary to often get booked at those events kind of has to be a little bit about you. So how do you think through and balance that tension?
Man, that is a massive question that I think I have constantly. And I don't know if I've fully settled that in me. It feels like that is the tension, especially in the world that we work in, of helping people realize that I am not the answer to their problems. Where in my world, that the answer for me is Jesus. He's the answer for my life. He's the answer for other people's life. And so when you step into that realm where other people are speakers and have their message and what they've learned, what I've had to do for me is my whole life has been coming to the end of myself, realizing I need something else. And so there is this reliance on someone that's not myself. And that is a day-to-day for all of us, I think, in life. We have to put our hope in something. And we know if the hope that what we're putting our hope in is working or not working. And I don't know if it answers your question, but that is the tension in the world that we live in, is in the world that I live in, because it's not, I have all the answers, but I can point you to the one that does. Yes. So that is always the context that I live in the world that I do, because all of the stuff that I do is, as being a pastor and being a speaker, is pointing them to someone other than myself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I imagine a lot of folks that'll really be fascinated by this conversation are people that they themselves are believers, are also speaking in churches. So they probably feel that tension too, where they see certain speakers or authors out there really, really promoting themselves on social media and like going full tilt with that. And maybe skeptically they go, well, they don't really have anything of substance to say. So where do you kind of draw the line of, because I imagine there's a part of you that goes, I do need to put myself out there a bit.
Yes.
But for you, your faith, your values, there's a way in which you would need to do it, or a quantity or a quality or even a heart posture for you internally, where it's maybe not even communicated externally, but there would be a relationship you would need to have with marketing, social media, promoting yourself. Where are you at today on thinking through that?
I think you started off with the biggest tension in my life. I think I can go back to Mexico with you guys years back with Jesse when he was there. And that's exactly the thing I was trying to answer when I was there in our mastermind together. What I was trying to figure out is, what is this? How do you live this life of promoting the answer and you also not being that, and being humble and all those things for other people? If they're not there in that realm and see it the way that I see it and walk in a relationship with the Lord, then they might have the answer when I'm sitting here the whole time saying, no, you got to deny yourself. But in return, how do you do that? And so I'm actually still in that process of learning that, because we've seen that in the church world and outside the church world of how it can get icky really quick. Of people, it starts off going, oh, in my context, God gets the glory, but maybe not the credit. Or then eventually it's, I throw Jesus glitter on it and put Jesus' name on it, but he's actually not in it.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think I think it's really, in my context, and this again may not relate to a lot of people that's listening to this, but in my context, there's too many people that co-sign stuff that Jesus or God didn't sign first.
Yeah.
And that's the tension that I live in, to be integrity. And the best way that I know to do that and sharing is not sharing to get, but sharing to give, of saying, this is my life and this is what is currently happening in my world. And here's what I've learned.
Yes.
Because Jesus said, I must be crucified first before all men can be drawn to me. And what he meant by that was, I must feel it. I must experience it. I must know what you know. And in my context and what I believe, he felt all the things that you and I walked through so he could say, I do know what you know. I do feel what you feel. And I think we have that ability to be walking testimonies because we're testifying about something we saw or something that we've seen. And so that's what happens, right? In court, testimony only works if it's actually you saw it. If it's hearsay, it's thrown out instantly. So the fruit of my life has to be the thing that is drawing to people, not the way that I talk. Or even if I did have a good whatever on the outside that looked great, very quickly you're going to go, okay, that guy has it or he doesn't. It's like the slap chop commercial, right? Like the old slap chop, works. And the 90-second whatever infomercial might tell you something. But until I get it in my own hands and I use it, I'm then going to then testify and say it did or it didn't, regardless of how good all of the commercial was for 90 seconds.
Well, listen here, Pastor. We're not gonna be blaspheming the slap chop today. So, I mean,
it works.
I ain't standing for that.
Good.
I ain't standing
Mighty
for that.
Mighty Putty probably doesn't.
Okay,
but the slap chop.
Yeah, get that stuff out of here. Get that stuff out of here. So, Ketric, let me push you for a second, and then I'm going to ask you a follow up. So, let me push you here. I hear you, like, during this conversation, don't apologize at all for who you are.
Sure.
This conversation, we're really recording this for the up-and-coming Ketrics, the people that they're believers, they want to speak in the Christian space or to other churches. They know the necessary best practices that are out there in speaker marketing. Part of those feel wise to them. Part of those feel icky and sort of cut against their faith. So this is going to be like a really niche conversation that for many, you're right, it'd be like, okay, interesting, but not really relevant to me.
Sure.
There's going to be a handful of other Ketrics out there that they go, finally, someone talking through all the things I've been wrestling with. So one more question on kind of this promotion thing.
Yep.
Without naming names, I mean, do you feel like there are folks in the church world who do this well, that they're not so timid or cautious that they don't put themselves out there in a good-spirited way, but also don't take it too far where it starts to feel like this is really no longer about the Lord or the message, this has become about you?
Do I know anybody that does that well right now?
Yeah,
Is
or
that the question?
do you see any folks like that? Does that kind of inspire you, inform you?
I think the first person that came to mind when you said that for me is like Bob Goff. Like the way that he lives his life is he's a walking billboard of who he is, what he's about. I think he is that. I think, years ago being at Life Church, like I think Craig Rochelle is someone who is integrity to the core. Like I think there's just certain people that have traits about them that I think when I look at their lives, I go, man, you live it. And in return, but it doesn't come, I can't really put my finger on who are the people that are like, that's the biggest two people that come to my mind right when you say that, but I don't really know if that's answering the question.
And those kind of folks, it seems like, feel like they are documenting what they'd be doing anyway.
Yes.
Versus kind of setting up an opportune situation for a video or a photo or a post that might serve some end. Is that kind of around what you're thinking?
Yeah, and I think that's probably just, if you would put a style on it, that would be more my style and what I feel comfortable in how I would promote, if you will, the things that are going on.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about another tension point. Going to be a lot of tensions we're going to talk through, okay?
Great.
Just prepare yourself and book a session with a chiropractor after the. So back in the day when you were youth pastoring, each week you're giving a different message.
Yes.
Now as a speaker, kind of, the wise thing to do is to kind of tour the greatest hits.
Yep.
You got this story, week 1 in January, the hit really, well, I'm going to take that out there. And this illustration that hit home, this joke, that was really funny. How do you approach kind of balancing generating new content versus reusing proven content, both for your sanity so you don't get sick of it, and thinking what is going to best serve these young people or adults that I'm speaking to?
I think that with revelation, what I would call revelation is that part of it. Like when you have revelation of something and something, it feels like you heard it for the first time. It was life changing. I think there's part of that some of that will be a life message in some context. Like there's certain things that I will speak on and it may take a different turn or a different way. But the things that have impacted my life the most is when I understood Jesus living in me, identity. And that really is like a theme through everything that mostly almost everything that I talk on everywhere I go. Because it just continues to grow the more and more you grow in how to renew the mind. It's like those, like renewal of the mind and identity are something that I feel like I have just stacked and stacked and stacked and learned more and gotten new revelation of and saw it in different ways. And so there's always a thing for me to speak out of a place of what has impacted me the most. But it does come with discernment also when I step into an environment to say, Lord, what do you have for them specifically? And I think that is the biggest key of like, I don't want to just, I've been in rooms where someone gives a talk and it was a really great talk, but it was the wrong time, or it was the wrong season, or it was the wrong something. And you've been in that. I mean, if you've ever been in that moment, it's just, it doesn't hit with the room. And so for me, it is always first going, Lord, what do you have for them? What do you have for them? And why are you bringing me here? And sometimes that is given to me before I'm even in the room. And sometimes there's been moments where I have been in the room and it's like, change it up. This summer, I spoke at a big FCA camp in PA, and 15 minutes before I spoke, like I felt like I need to change my message. Don't tell anyone.
That gives me anxiety, Ketric.
I know.
I can't handle this.
I can't. You can't. But that was like, I felt very convicted that I needed to change because I'd been there for 4 days. And it felt like, man, you need to change and go in this direction to seal what you've been talking about. And it's in my context, it just feels like it builds. And it feels like the Lord, like in my context, the Lord is like heart for the people. There's a transition that happens with people, whether it be they confess things or they're walking through things and it really hits. And it's like, okay, Lord, what do you want to do now? And it's really fun in that way, to partner with the Lord and to say, what are you doing? And how do you want to move in what direction you want to move?
Now, you and I have different personality types in this way, but which is great. I mean, to me, if I was going to pray like, God, what do these people need to hear? I'd be praying that 32 weeks in advance and say, God, by week 30, if I don't hear from you, I'm just doing what I'm going to do. So I can wrap my mind around that in kind of that 4-day context of the camp you said, right? You're sitting around there, you hear the stories. You can also begin to feel the elephants in the room that aren't being discussed, that aren't being spoken out loud, that are clearly anxieties, lies, fears, et cetera, that aren't being addressed. But have you also had those kind of situations where you're not there for several days, you're not sitting through sessions, you're not staying up late having those deep conversations, and yet still, even though you just showed up 2 hours early for the sound check, you still felt that prompting and acted on it?
Yeah. And especially because I love to just talk with administration too. Like I'll even do that beforehand. But really when I get there, And I think, again, like your superpower is the way that you can put like how you can structure things. And that's like a superpower that I think is the order that you have and the order that God has given you. For me, there's something about being in the room when I'm in it. I just know the direction to go.
Yeah.
And I can't explain that. I just know, I know what I, and what's weird is a lot of times I won't even know exactly what I'm saying, what I'm supposed to say, which will give you even more anxiety.
Perfect.
But it's like, but I know that I need to open my mouth and say the thing that is there. And there's this, the only way I can explain it, and it may make sense, it may not to a lot of people, is there's a love that leaves my body, if you will. It's just like a love towards, it's a love towards the people there. And sometimes that comes with like, I just feel emotion. And then, and my question to God is, what do you want me to do with this? Is this you? Is this not? I mean, you have to discern that. But a lot of times when I feel peace and I feel love, I can be confident that I can open my mouth and say the thing in a way that I didn't even know it needed to be said. Mm-hmm. And that happens so much more and more as I become more in tune to that instead of just be a performer. And that's what shifted in my life, even in the last few years, is being able to partner with God instead of perform for God. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the part that shifted for me in a big way. And what shifted was God's not in the stands and I'm on the court and he's cheering me on, but God's on the court with me and we're doing this thing together. When that shifted for me and saying, God, I don't just want to do things for you, I want to do things with you. That part that shifted in me as a pastor and a communicator, speaker, whatever you want to label it, that's when everything started to change, and seeing the impact that had on individuals' lives is mind-blowing and also fun. So that's been part of it.
Yeah, I've been in those rooms where you felt that prompting. You've responded, down in Mexico, a couple dozen of us as speakers, and you've poignantly and beautifully spoken into someone's life, and it clearly connected. And your ability to piece together things you were not even aware of. My curiosity with this, all of our greatest strengths also can have these weaknesses with them, right? So you complimented my ability to have system structures ordered. If that is unchecked, I can become controlling. I can not allow space for humanity, emotion, those kind of moments. Mm-hmm. Have you ever felt convicted that this gift that you have to read the room in the moment, respond in the moment, can tempt you to not appropriately prepare as you might if you could not call upon that gift that God has given you?
Yeah, I would say really early on. I mean, I can think back to moments of conversations you and I had. I'll take us back to Starbucks, or was it Starbucks? Yeah, it was Starbucks. And you looking me in the face and saying, I'm not going to have this conversation with you again. And because you cut through you can say the slick thing and say the thing that you think my ears want to hear, and then we don't get anything accomplished and we move on and we both feel good. And that's because that's not your personality. You want something to be 1% better. And so when you said that to me, you were really the first, if you will, father in my life in the speaking world to tell me the thing that I needed to hear, not the thing that I wanted to hear. And so it was actually that day. And what I realized, and there was many others along the way, there was an English teacher, I forget even what she was in college. She was a teacher, and I put off doing my final assignment, and I walked in and winged it. And it was great in some ways. What happened is I slept in when I was supposed to give mine. And then I went back to her and said, can I do it? And she said, yes, Ketric, but you need to get your SHIT together. Yeah. And she said that to me. And that was a moment, But what I realized is I've used my gift a lot of times to get me out of things instead of springboard me into things. And it was that conversation with you that helped me realize, like, hey, yeah, flying by the seat of your pants feels great. And sometimes it's exhilarating, and you live in that love, that emotion of that. And you love the feeling of pulling something off. But it was also a thing in me of not realizing that I could be the best at what I do. Yeah. And I think there was still even some of that in me, some identity things in me of not taking my place, that I actually could be the greatest at something. And I think some of that could go all the way back to childhood, being a kid with a reading disability. Once you're labeled that, the teachers kind of pass you along, and there's a lot of things that you don't have to finish and you still get the credit. And so there's all kinds of things that I look back on and see now as I'm later in age that help me realize you're using your gift to get you out of things instead of actually give you opportunity for things. And once that clicked for me, things changed. That day when I left that Starbucks, that's when things shifted for me. But it took someone that would call me out on my crap and say, no, I know you. And not just calling me out, but calling me up. Like that's something that you did very, very well. And you do, I think for a lot of people, is you're going, okay, cut through the whatever. Like, let's have a real conversation here about what are you going to take responsibility for? And so I think that's a big thing.
I love that clarity you've arrived at. And I think particularly these days, there is such a glut of information you can take in, voices you can take in, many of which are interesting, inspiring, wise, have intellectually fascinating things to say. And I've been convicted this year of, really just this last 3 months, I have tried to discipline myself to not read another book or listen to another podcast until I've done the handful of ideas I was struck by of like, dude, you need to do that. So what I'll do, I'll just like right now, it's like, there's only one podcast I'm allowed to listen to. Sorry, Jesse, it's not ours. It's a little awkward.
Right. I don't listen to it either.
Yeah. Okay, great. Listen to that on repeat so that the layers, the nuances, like get in there instead of just gorging myself on new information, shiny ideas. And there's nothing wrong with the ideas. It's just if I constantly gorge the ideas and never take action on any of them, I'm really just kind of self-medicating with information versus trying to take any sort of progress forward.
100%.
Define North American Christianity in particular. And so I feel like that really sums up even for those folks who are, wrestling with this question. It's because we've set up this dichotomy. There's the Christian speaking world and there's the regular speaking world. And I know the difference. I know both of those are valid. And if you say things excellently, like Bob Goff is a perfect example, man. He's invited everywhere to speak to anyone because he's just being who he is. And he's, inviting people into something bigger than themselves. And I love that tension, that dance. And yet some of that tension just has to do with the dichotomy we set up by, let's get more information. Let's get more flash. Let's get more charisma. And then we see these kind of meltdowns from these various leaders because it's just been that kind of thing.
For sure.
And that I include myself in that whole process. So that's not an attack on, but sort of an observation from the inside out.
Ketric, have you been able kind of more recently in life to discipline yourself around, taking in information, getting counsel from mentors versus, I'm not going to set up another meeting with that fella until I do the thing or two that he said at the last time, kind of, referencing back to that moment, hostile moment. And you were a college wrestler, I think, at the time. So I should have really been careful. I mean, you had those cauliflower ears. I mean, I could have died that day, Jesse.
Yeah,
I could have died.
That's hilarious. I was never a wrestler, but everyone always asks me if I was.
Well,
that's
in
the
my
funny
mind,
part about it.
Ketric, you just be quiet. In my mind,
there's a singlet.
I missed
there's
it.
a wrestler.
he was
there's
wearing
headgear.
spandex. Maybe that was it.
It's under the shirt.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
in the Starbucks, just the, it was. I mean, Yeah. It was,
Okay, now I'm remembering the headlines. Yes, I remember.
yeah. So how do you think about that now, Ketric?
Yeah, I think that's still partially some of my like. There's areas where I've done that well, and I feel the accomplishment of that and how good that feels. But then um, there's still also that can still be my getaway of taking in more and dreaming and not doing, because I can dream all day long. I'm a vision caster at heart. Like I can, if you it, and I can, we can just go 30,000 foot up in a hot air balloon right now in what I see in the future of what I get to do at Teen Dream Center and what we're doing here with Inner City Kids. I can do that with you. Get me in a room to brainstorm and I'm your dude. And you want to get in a room to vision cast, I'm your guy. It's the it's the implementation of that and putting that into action that is still something that I'm trying to learn to do. In this last season, the great thing for me is the people that I get to work with, like that like a girl that I work with right now, Allie, she's really good at the process. So she helps me hold, like, okay, great. You can get the hot air balloon if you want, but we're on step 3 of 6 steps and we're going to continue this. I don't want you to stop dreaming. And so it's a helpful thing to have other people with other gifts. It doesn't alleviate me from still having a role to stay on the ground when I need to stay on the ground. But it's also good to also realize, like, someone that has cadence and someone that keeps the cadence going is also something that you need on a daily basis to speak into your life to help the process to completion. And so for me, I have some of those people around me that help me do that. But also I have been aware of when I step into a meeting and I go 30,000 foot up and go, this isn't best for the team. It's not getting us anywhere, but I'm having a great time. And everyone's holding on to the hot air balloon about to fall off going, what are we talking about? And where are we going? And that, especially as the founder of a nonprofit, that is what has shifted in that realm for me in this last 2 years. That has had to grow in me to go, you can't get in the hot air balloon today. Like, you got to just get into the details and finish out what we're doing and where we're headed, because it's not good for your team. They're whiplashed and they need direction and to move with them in a direction. So that's kind of that personally.
This individual on your team who's good at details, did you say her name was Allison?
Allie, yeah.
Allie. Did you hire Allie, or was she already sort of a part of the organization, the ecosystem?
So I hired Allie, but she was a volunteer and worked in Big Brothers Big Sisters for 5 years prior to coming on staff with me. Mm-hmm. So, but in meetings, she would sit down with me and we would, before she was even on staff, I would like just brainstorm all this stuff. And then she, like, everything I ever said, she just put on spreadsheets. And I was like,
That's
oh
awesome.
My gosh, what is this?
Yeah, I like Allie.
And it was
she
like
a good person.
you might steal her, but she's incredible in that way. And so when I was like, this is, and she didn't even think it was that big of a deal, obviously, right? Because when we have our own gifts, we don't even know the gifts they are because they're just right in our face. And I'm like, I don't have that thing. Like, I got some of that thing, but you got, like, that is your gift. And I need that to be a part of what we do.
How did you, how did you recognize that? Because I imagine for a lot of us, there's a thing we're good at. Mm-hmm. There's a thing we're bad at. We're maybe self-aware with it, or we just keep ramming up against a wall because of it. We're not quite sure why. Maybe we blame circumstances, get a little bitter, get a little jaded. We've all been there. How did you know you needed someone like an Allie when you don't have that skill set yourself natively?
There's a couple things. There's a great book that I read, and I'll tell you about that too. But it did come to a point where it was like, you know, when you're at an age and everyone tells you you're really mature, and then you start getting older, and now the maturity of what they told you were, you feel like you're like like they just keep telling you the same thing, but you're not growing, and you know it. And it was like really early on, people are like, you're so gifted. Man, you have these gifts, man, it's awesome. And they would tell me these things. And as I got older, I realized, but I'm not moving anything forward. And so there was like this,
right.
You
don't tell a 44-year-old, you have a lot of potential.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah, that's
bro, I've only got 40 years left.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I felt like I kept smacking up against, is like, that felt good when I was 17.
Right.
When my old youth pastor said, "Hey, come speak at Sea at the Pole," and I spoke for the first time in front of a big group of people. But what does that look like when I'm sitting in Starbucks at, I know it was just a few years later with you, but it was like, what am I doing with this? Like, I feel like I am burying a gift and I don't know how to move forward. And so I actually read a book, and this is then a few years later as I'm working on the nonprofit and doing the things that we're doing, is like, I see my gaps. Like I see the first time I give that talk and go up in the hot air balloon, people really like it. But when I give that the 7th time, what are we doing? Right. And like, we're running out of, hot air here, and so it's like, what are we doing? And I started to see that. And then that leads into my integrity. Right. So there's just all of this that started to come up of like, am I a man of my word? There's all this stuff that started to pop up for me. And so I read a book by Les McCowan called Predictable Success. Mm-hmm. And it was a time that I just needed like some things to be put in my hands. And it talked about that every business, every nonprofit, they need 3 things. And they need a processor, they need an operator, and they need a visionary. And that book blew my mind, and realizing I already had hired Allie, but didn't realize that I hired a processor already, because I saw it when she put all this stuff together, and I'm going, this is genius. And so, but what happens is that visionary is the one that can cast vision, get the people pumped, get the people headed in a direction, get everyone on board, get everyone unified, and helping them see the future that's not yet in front of them. The processor is the step person. Okay, we're on step 1 of step 7. That's going to get us to the end result. It's going to be duplicatable at the end of this. They're going to know what to expect. They're going to know how to continue to make it happen. Every time a volunteer comes in, they know what success is. Because they have a playbook. They have these things in their hands. We do quarterly meetings. We know what we're talking about. We're heading people in direction. They're working on that. And then you have the operator that's like, I don't need the meeting. I just want to get the stuff done. Like, they're the doers. They're not the here's step 1 to 7. Give me the stuff so we can get to step 7. Mm-hmm. And so that's the operator mind that I'm actually, that those three areas are what we need. And that just helped me clarify first, it took pressure that I didn't have to be all of those things. And there's seasons when you do, but it's okay to go, that's not fully going to be my entire, I have to live in this tension the rest of my life. It just means later on down the road, we need to hire for some of those things. But I know exactly what I am.
Hi, friends. It's Jesse Rice, co-host and producer of the podcast. Normally, you'd hear from Josh at this point, offering you the opportunity to learn more about how to launch or grow your speaking business or write and publish your book. But since I also edit the podcast, I just cut his part right out. That gives me the opportunity to do the pitching, but from the perspective of someone who is a former student of the program and someone that has benefited tremendously from the wisdom and experience and the countless practical insights that make the Stage, Page, and Screen training program so powerful. Look, Josh isn't paying me to say this. I do it for the community service hours. My point is, and all kidding aside, as one that has truly benefited in massive, life-changing, dream-come-true kind of ways from this content, I can't recommend Stage, Page, and Screen highly enough. And I really mean that. To go and learn more for yourself about making your speaking and writing dreams come true at stagepagescreen.com. That's stagepagescreen.com. Now, back to the show.
I want to go back to that young Ketric. I remember you back in the day. You got the blonde tips, looking like a member at 98 Degrees.
That's right. Ryan Cabrera before Ryan Cabrera, baby.
That's right. So I want to talk about finding your voice, because I remember the early Ketric persona, very high energy, very zany, not saying things anyone would disagree with. It's not like a mom would sit in your audience and go, "Don't tell my kid that."
Right.
But not as much depth as we would get with current day Ketric. Let's set the depth aside for a minute. We'll get to that later. but the zaniness, the high energy, was that truly who you were at that time, at that age? Or was that a thing you thought you needed to be? Or, well, this other pastor at the church is kind of the wise one, the theologian, so I got to be like the fun, zany one. When you look back on that, talk me through that.
Yeah, I think I'm naturally just a positive individual in general, and I have lots of energy and always have had lots of energy. So I've been that person. But I think there was a line in that where that became what overtook that personality of who I am was the big problem that it turned into was performance, and that performance was the thing that drove at some point validated everything I did. That it's my performance that's going to keep me here and or get me here and keep me here. And so I think that was a big, massive shift that even in last few years has even shifted as well, because performance is good and it needs to put you. I mean, it helps to put you in places, but when your performance starts to break down is when stuff started to, in my life, where I had to look internally and go, hold on, am I finding my identity in this? Of like having to be the guy all the time and having to be, hey, look over here, I'm the guy juggling. Look at me, I'm this dude, and I've got to be the thing for you, all the time. And I realized that I was unhealthy, not because part of that wasn't true of who I was. There was just a season of life where I realized that I had started performing to get accepted in ways that was not healthy. And so when it broke down, it started turning for me into anxiety in a massive way, where I just realized I was sitting because my performance wasn't working anymore. And I can tell you more about what that all landed on if you want to go there. So I totally can. But do you want me to share that part?
Yeah, I would love to go there, because I know this, when you find yourself in those spots, and we all do for different reasons, but that's just inevitable. That begins to leak out of you. It spills out on the audience. It can be sort of unintentional, just, okay, clearly he's in kind of a weird spot, or it can start to get kind of icky, and you began this trying to be helpful, and now you're kind of being unhelpful, because there's a tone or a posture or a bitterness or an uncertainty or an incongruence in you that inevitably is going to find its way into the content, the message, and the delivery. So how did you get out of that?
So the big thing that started happening for me is I started just realizing, I mean, when my anxiety started, it started then coming out in anger. So not on stage, obviously, right? Like, oh, we can put the stage thing on. But I do remember coming off a stage one day after speaking at an event, and I went, I'm not that guy I just portrayed. The funny guy that I am on stage is not the joyful guy I was just being on stage, is not the dude that I am at home. Whoa, hold on, disconnect. Everything that we just even talked about at the beginning of this, of people and getting weird and pastors and all this stuff. Oh man, hold on, check yourself. What's happening here? And that's where it started for me, is like, and I started saying things like, I don't know where Ketric went. What happened to Ketric? What happened to the joyful guy, that the pure joyful guy, like the guy that was really him, not trying to get a moment of joy to get me back to it, but like it feels like that person isn't here anymore. What's going on?
It's not overflow, but it's like something you're having to like really
conjure
push
up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's exactly what happened. And so I started doing what's called freedom prayer, which is like inner healing. And I stepped into that. And it's where you sit in a room with people and there's one person leading and you're praying and you're connecting with God, with these people, and it's nothing weird. No one's putting their hands on you, like having you fall down. There's no like any of that.
Well,
It's
then I'm not
straight.
interested.
Okay. Well, I can help you with the other ones. But with that, it was the most beautiful thing when I sat in a room with a group of people where I connected, and we just went wherever God was going. And and you just kind of sit in the room, and it's what I call like listening prayer. It's like you're sitting there listening. What's coming to mind? Is it a word? Is it a statement? Is it a picture? Is it whatever? And so I got a picture of a moment that took place when I was younger, and God brought me right back to that moment. And I was like, and then when stuff like that pops up, then what they guide you through is just to say, okay, ask God, Jesus, or the Holy Spirit, whoever you feel comfortable with, ask him, why is that picture coming up? And so why is that picture coming up? And he showed me some things in that. I won't go into the details of what that story was, but there were some things in there where I learned two things from this moment. I learned that I was alone. This is what I believed, is that I was alone, and my performance is what held everything together. At 10, he showed me, took me back 30 years and went, this is what your little heart at 10 believed, and you've been living from it ever since. But I would love to take it and replace it with something else. And I said, you can have it. Because we have to get to the end of anything that we're using that isn't Jesus. And once I was able to give it over and say, here, you can have it. I don't want this to defend my life anymore. I want you to defend my life. I handed that over. And then what you do in that prayer time is you say, Jesus, what do you want to give me in return? I'm telling you, the stuff that he gave me back, the 10-year-old. Now Ketric at 40 may not need it, but Ketric at 10 needed it. That's the lie. The lie is, oh, no, I'm good. I'm grown. I don't need it. No. You may not think you need it now, but that 10-year-old Ketric that's still in there, that's angry, he can't grow up until the needs met for him of what he needed and can actually say, I needed it. And that's what happened in that time. And this is what it is there is a 10-year-old in you, and there's a 10-year-old in me, or whatever age that is, when the moment happened, when you needed something that they couldn't give you. And because they couldn't give it to you, you're still sitting back there going, hey, I'm back here. And then you show up at 40 in anger, and it's that 10-year-old that even though you've grown in age every year and had a birthday, you still had some things that you needed, but you have to come to the realization of every time I speak on a stage is not going to fix that. Right. Every time I have a moment where someone gives me the accolade, it's not going to fix that. I need something to fill in the deficiencies, and it's not going to be more performance. It's actually going to be more surrender. And that's what happens for me. And the great thing is I prayed a lot of that as a kid, but what I didn't realize is that Jesus wanted to give me some things back, not just confess, oh, Lord, forgive me. Yes, you should pray that. But it's also now, as I have traded this in, what do you want to give me back? And he is the best gap filler there is. He'll fill in all the gaps where mom and dad missed it. He'll fill in all the gaps where the kid on the football team said the thing that he said. He'll fill in all the gaps of everywhere that the best people in our lives could have or should have filled in the gaps. He will go, listen, they did the best with what they could. Now let me come alongside you and fill in the gaps that you didn't even know you were missing. And that's what he does. And that's what happened for me in that moment. And there's obviously always still more growth and more freedom, right? So I'm not done. But that was a massive moment for me to allow little Ketric, to grow up to 40 in that area of my life. And that's what happens when Jesus meets you in that moment and gives you some things back and shows you that he was there. And then he hands you the stuff that they should have given you, and you walk out of that time, you instantly grow to the age that you are.
Yeah.
But you can't by denying it. You can't by saying, oh, I'm fine. Remember, we know what fine stands for, right? Feelings inside. Wait, no, I forget. There's a statement for it. I'm not even going to do it. Kid with a reading disability, but whatever. So that being, and so with that, we have to acknowledge I needed something, and it's not my doing that's going to fix it. It's what he did that's going to fix it. And when I apply that to my life, it then transforms me and completes me.
That's beautiful, dude. And I affirm that in you. I saw that in your life. I saw that something had clicked, something had changed. You had clearly done some inner work. I'm so fascinated by this idea of, for us as communicators, speakers, to make sure that to the best we can, we're never going to be perfect, but that we're healed, because otherwise it affects everything. And I feel like this topic area is one of those things that I occasionally talk about here and elsewhere, and people go, yeah, that's kind of like the cherry on top. Like, yeah, sure, that's sort of like a cute, emotional idea, and that's like a cherry on top to do later. But I can think of so many speakers that I know personally that have a great message, good intentions, honest to goodness, helpful advice I would want my son or daughter to hear if they were struggling with that particular area. But there's something in their heart or in their posture that's clearly incongruent, that's clearly not healed. And because of that, it's not like the audience is trying to be rude or could even know what they're sniffing out. But because of that gap, that hole you speak to, there's a little bit of I'm not sure if I'm really going to take in everything they're saying. I'm not really sure if who this person is and what this person is saying is congruent. Therefore, I'm going to listen to the message, but I'm going to be a little skeptical to apply it to my life.
Yeah, I think that's the deal, is like, if you're not healed, and again, we're all on a journey,
Yes.
but I mean, especially if you're using things like this to try to fill something, you're always using people. You're trying to be helpful with the advice that you have, but there's that motive behind it. That is, I'm either using people to get something that I think will help me. There's that thing that you just sense, like you're trying to use people to get position, or you're trying to whatever it is to prove that you are. But when you walk into a room knowing you already are approved, then you actually then can give. You have something to give. And I think that's something that all of us need to figure out in our own lives of where that is. And I know it's always in different seasons, different things.
Absolutely. I want to talk through these different stages, because you and I have both, you and I speak to different types of folks, but we've both been doing this, since we're 17, 18, and now we're in our 40s, need a little help getting up the stairs, if you don't mind. So talk me through kind of the tone posture, the heart posture through these different stages. You're 18, you're 19, you're kind of like a peer. You're like a peer that maybe has like 3% more figured out than they do, on a good day, right? So I kind of think through these stages. It's like you're a peer, then you're like the big brother, then you're like the uncle, then you're like the father figure, then eventually we're headed towards you and I. And Jesse's already there. Jesse's great grandfather, but kind of that grandfatherly.
He's got such good skin, though. Look at him. My gosh, he's got that baby
I do moisturize.
skin.
I moisturize.
And Botox. I mean, let's be honest. Okay.
He's smiling right now, but I can't tell.
Exactly.
Well, this is him angry.
I can't move my face.
That's right. So how do you think through kind of those different seasons and how you relate? Because none of those are bad or inappropriate. We kind of look back on them and go, man, I was kind of goofy when I was in that big brother phase. And I would say that about me as well. But I think during that phase and age and stage and the depth that I had and didn't have at that phase, that was genuinely the best way I could serve my audience.
That was authentic to who you were.
Yeah, at that time. Now, I shouldn't get stuck there. I shouldn't stay there. I shouldn't try to linger there too long. When I talk about these different stages, Ketric, can you talk about how you've thought through those, struggled through those, and think through those now?
Man, I mean, I'll say how this is translated from speaking and being a youth pastor and all the stuff that I do. I don't know. When I look back now, I would say it in this tone, and probably again, like it's fine that that is where I was, but I don't know how I was a youth pastor before not having kids first. Like, I think the moment that my son Valor, that's now almost 9, was put on my wife's chest after giving birth, that did something in me supernaturally that you get married, that'll kill some things in you that are selfish and your ambition and all the things of why you do what you do. That will do that. But there's something about when we had our first kid 5 years into marriage that did something even more in the depths of me that made me realize that it really isn't about me. What inheritance and legacy do I want to leave behind? And I think that is like been where I am in this season. In those other seasons, it was about me. It was, I mean, everything. You can't. Back then, I thought I just needed to pray about it all the time instead of just kill it, right? Like you can't pray about the flesh. You just got to kill it. But that was the final motivation, or the nail in the coffin to go. You're going to transfer some things, and what you do or don't do, you are going to leave behind for them to accomplish or clean up or finish, or you're going to give them a springboard to stand on your shoulders and do something even greater than what you did. And that translated first in my own personal family, but then that translated into, I'm going to tell you the thing. A wound from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy made so much more sense to me when I became a father, and then how I did ministry and spoke, because it was like, do I care more about what you think about me, or is a real friend someone that might wound you and tell you the truth, just like you did at Starbucks, to help me become who I am? And accountability went from not just, hey, I have accountability partners that help me not do things, but instead account for my ability to help me actually become fully what God put in me to be here on this earth. That's a whole different realm. And that's a whole different motivation. Now it really is not about me, because I'm going to get uncomfortable and get into your world and tell you the uncomfortable thing, because you never had a spiritual father or a father in your life to go, no, you're accountable for everything, for the talents that you've been given. And before the foundations of the earth, God put some things in you, and he calls you a chosen instrument, and there's stuff for you to do. And I don't want you to leave all of that potential in a casket someday and never, ever fully actually live it, because I see greatness in you, and it matters to me that I'm not comfortable. So I'm going to get uncomfortable and say the thing and do the thing and step into that and actually help you fully see it, even if you walk away mad at me. Because that was really the moment for you and me. You said the uncomfortable thing to me and then just looked at me. And it was, but that was the deal, right?
Yeah,
because for me, it was like a moment where it was like, poop or get off the pot. Like this is,
I think we'd
mess with me.
I think we'd met up 3 or 4 times. Even back then I'm nerdy. I was on Google Calendar, even back then.
Yeah.
And it's like, I remember I kind of had some talking points in each of our meetings, and I go, okay, meeting 1. Well, meeting 2 talking points are the same as meeting 1. And then meeting 3 talking points are the same.
Yep.
I was like, bro, why don't you just audio record me and play it on loop? Because you ain't been doing the thing. We already met here 3 months ago, and I told you as I do, absurd, specific, step-by-step detail what to do, and you ain't
with
doing
slides.
that.
With slides.
Yeah, so
I met you out in Los Gatos at the Pete's, and you looked me in the eye and goes, tell the lady to give me a cheetah. It was some kind of weird tea.
Yes, it is.
Cheetah, something weird. I don't know what it was.
I'm not comfortable going on the record with my tea.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I remember. It kind of felt like, okay, if you need a friend, like we can meet up and be friends.
Yeah.
But if you're asking me for advice, you don't need advice. I done gave you the advice. Go do the dang thing I told you to do.
Yep. That's exact. And I think that's what's so important right now for the generation that's coming up too, is to have those fathers to tell them the truth. Because if you get the fame quickly, or you get the accolades quickly, which is so a lot easier to do and be found and known and seen, if you don't have the foundation under that for someone that's actually knows everything about you, your ins and outs, your quirks, your secrets, your all those things, you won't make it. You will burn fast.
Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen that with friends that, early 20s, things just blow up in a beautiful way. And that oxygen up there, that at that top, gets real thin. And things get tested, and you're sitting down at base camp breathing full oxygen. You go, no, I want to go up there. And I'm ready to go up there. And I'm prepared to breathe that air. And you get up there, and it just gets weird. It does.
Yeah. Well, and we know it's this saying, I don't know who said it, but it's, that your gifts will promote you, but your character is what keeps you. And I think the only way that the character that keeps you there is by the people that you put around you that will be able to call you out. Who do you know in your life that could call you out on anything, that nothing is off limits? That's a massive question to answer. And I think we would be a lot better in the church world if we actually had those people.
Let's talk about patience, because I imagine this might not be a bullseye on you right now this season for you, but it's going to at least be a partial hit. You're feeling this heart shift of, with the speaking that you do. You got Teen Dream Center, all that beautiful work y'all are doing. That's your day job. But here and there on the side, you're doing the speaking. You're feeling this heart shift from speaking to students to the adults that impact students. That's this season of life for you. That's what you're doing day in, day out at TDC. How do you think about patience with this? Because you find yourself in a situation where you're giddy with the lessons, the insights, happy to share all the failures, the handful of successes, and you feel like you have so much to share. You feel like you've worked on your character. You feel like there's again, not perfect, but solid and substance. How do you think about patience when you want to be full speed in that season yet, and certain days it feels like you're just tiptoeing into it?
For speaking side or all of it?
All of it. However you think.
Well, I think this last 2 years has been the biggest, what I would call almost wilderness. And that when you're talking about the patience, like what that produces. I felt like in the last 2 years, one of the things that the Lord's been saying is that don't plant anything in this season because you're in a winter season and nothing will grow. And I fought that because I'm go set ready. Like let's move. I got to be moving. Like I need to be moving. And that was a part of that process, was then him healing my heart of some of these things that we were just discussing when I was 10. But he had to get me still for me to listen. And it really took the last few years of him saying, don't plan anything. Even when we started the TDC and it became its own nonprofit out from under the church, like he was saying to me, like, don't try to get out there and promote all this stuff. Don't do all these things. I'll bring it to your doorstep and only walk through doors that are motion censored. Don't try to go kick doors down. And I'm sitting here going, what are you talking about? Like, we got to go. Like, this is now our own nonprofit. This is this is like all on me now. Like, I'm not under anything anymore. It's our own. And I started going, and that's when he was like, oh, child, it's like, it's like the moments where my kid is having a freak out, and on my good day, I can sit back and just say, hey, buddy, when you're settled down, I would really love to say some things about that. And that's exactly what God does, is he's a gentleman. He says he guides us with his eye. He doesn't guide us with his hands. And you guide someone with your eye, not in control, but you're like, hey, that hurts my heart, or I have something to say. I have some things that I want to fill in there, but I'm not going to exhort myself over you. And that's exactly how it is. And so when I finally was the kid in aisle 3 at Walmart, falling on the floor and crying, and him finally going, "Hey, I got some things to say about that." And I finally just got quiet. And he's like, "I won't yell. I'm not like anyone else you've ever known. I won't. I'm secure in who I am. And I know my ways work. I don't have to yell to tell you I'm Big Dad.
Come on.
But when you're ready, I would love to talk to you about that." And that's what that last 2 years has been, of living in the wilderness and being okay with, do all the work you need to do in me and hide me away until I'm ready to take what you have. And God even started showing me this back when we had our second child, Oaks. As he said, we had Oaks, he was 2 months early.
These are incredible names. If you're keeping track at home, we have
Valor
Valor
and
and Oak. No pressure,
Awesome.
boys.
Yeah.
No pressure,
They can
boys.
kick my butt right now.
That's right. But when he came along 2 months early, I felt like that. What I felt in my heart is, I said, "Lord, I don't want anything premature. I can do it, and anyone can do it, but it's just harder." And that was the process for me, in that's where it started. And then it just kept building until there was a moment where my performance was not working. It just wasn't working. And that's when it all kind of came to a head. And I went, I've got to figure this out. And so that has been the 2 years or 2 years plus of that wilderness season of being okay with, there is a promise, but there is a command that I must do to make the promise come to pass. And that whole process was not do more. It was surrender more. Surrender what you think, surrender how you think this is going to happen. Again, Ketric, I've done a lot of things. You've done a lot of things for me. I want to do a lot of things with you now, because I want to be with you. Like, I want to spend time with you. Like, I have something to say about everything that you're into and what you're about. And I'm just telling you, I designed it and I know there's a better way. And when you surrender to that, every time I've done that and walked in peace, it's always worked. That's what I tell people all the time. Never make a decision out of fear. Wait until you have peace and then make the decision. And that peace can come in, but I know it's the right thing. Like that whole whiny, crying, falling on the floor thing. But I knew there was a peace in it. And that's what navigated me through to this season of life, right where we are now. And I think it's helped me even in this season, when you're saying of like making the transition from speaking to just youth to going, no, I'm a dad now. And when I'm speaking now, most of the time to these youth, yes, there's tons of response from the youth and it's still awesome, but it is the youth pastors and the huddle leaders and the whoever's there that are coming to me going, dude, I've been following the Lord for all these years and I've never in my life heard some of the things that you're saying. Thank you. And I'm going, okay, Lord, when I'm speaking at big church, if you will, that's what I call it still. But like on Sunday mornings at churches and doing other events that I've gotten to do in this last year, the things that are coming out of these adults, they're going, I've never seen it this way. And so I can see the fruit on it. But again, it's going, you show me the timing. You show me what to step into. You show me what you want to do. And I've just gotten pretty good for the first time, I feel like, of surrendering.
What would you say to kind of two different versions of Ketric out there? You know, they might be 19, they might be 49. You know, there's probably someone listening that then they are in that that season of surrender and patience. You know, they might need to heal a bit. They might need, the Lord might need to teach them something. What would you say to that person? And then what would you say to the person, again, irregardless of their age, it's more like that Starbucks version. It's not about patience. It's not about waiting. They've sought wise counsel. They know what they need to do. And now they just need to act on it. What would be your encouragement to sort of those two folks?
I think to the person that is in the middle of waiting, that feels like they're in a wilderness season, it won't be wasted. Like all of it, there is a plan in it, and there's something to be learned within when you're living there, and don't fight it. Like, try not to fight it. I know it's hard, and I've been there. But I think what I hope in my life, and hopefully I got to the point in seasons when this comes back around, I hope that what should have taken 40 days doesn't end up taking 40 years, right? Or however long it was for them to be in the wilderness. Whatever that walk would have been from Pharaoh's land to the promised land took way too many years than it should have. And I would just say your obedience will determine that longevity, I think, a lot of times. And don't stay there longer than you have to. Just step into it, figure it out, and surrender what needs to be surrendered. And then say, now what do I do? So I think that's that part of it. For the young person, and this is what I would say to anyone, I think we all do what we do because we think it works. And I think there's got to be a point for all of us. If it works, keep doing it. If at some point it stops working and it doesn't work anymore, abandon it all to go find what it is. And the way that you know if it's working is when you lay your head down on the bed at night. Do you have peace? That's the only thing I can tell you. Because what I believe is that you can't remanufacture peace. It can't be made, and there's either you have it or you don't, and you know if you have it or you don't. And if you don't, however and whatever you're doing that you feel like isn't giving you peace, don't defend it. Go say, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't have it all figured out. Because peace is the only thing that for me, that I believe that Jesus gives, that everything else in my life couldn't give me. My performance couldn't give me peace. It was the surrender to Jesus that gave me peace. And again, that didn't mean I wasn't a believer. It just meant there were still things that I was putting in front of that to go, no, I'm going to add to that thing. I'm going to add to what he gave me. Or also, I don't know what I need, right? The best thing that you could pray is, Lord, well, there's a couple things. I think the best thing that we could pray in moments is, Lord, show me what I don't know. Like, what do I not know? Because there's that verse that says he knows what we need before we ask. And I always hated that verse because I'm like, he already knows. Why am I praying this thing? Like, why am I praying? You already know. Why am I praying? Like, how many times I get mad at God and be like, you already know. But it's more like, God, you know what I don't know. Would you reveal to me what I need to know that you know? Like, that's the whole thing. It's not, oh, you know, whatever. It's no, you know some things I don't know, but I've got to surrender what I think I know so that you can actually tell me what I don't know. And that's really been helpful to me. And then I think if you're in the waiting, there's two things to pray. Lord, am I waiting on you, or are you waiting on me? Those are the two best prayers you can pray, because sometimes the truth is you're just waiting on the Lord. Like some of you, whatever it is that you're doing, what you're waiting on, you feel the promise, you know that God has something in store for you. It's in the future. Everyone's told you, everyone around you said the thing, and the timings haven't aligned. You haven't hit the corner where both of those things line up, and it just hasn't happened. And you're like, God, what's happening? Sometimes you're just waiting on the Lord. And in that season, all you can do is do the last thing he told you. That's it. That's your only job. Don't make it up. Don't try to figure it out. Don't try to move forward. Don't do anything. Just go, okay, I'm confident I'm doing the last thing he told me, and I'm going to keep doing this last thing until he taps me on the shoulder and tells me the next thing to do. And then if he's waiting on you, that just means that there's obedience that you haven't stepped into. A command is something God does. Obedience is something we do to make the command and the promise come to pass. And so, like for you and me, like that moment for you, when you said those words to me, that was a moment for me in that Starbucks for me to do what I was obedient in, not waiting on God to give me direction. I didn't need direction. And sometimes we pray because we're too scared to actually do the thing that we already know God wants us to do. Sometimes we use prayer as an excuse to not step into the thing that we already know God wants us to do. And so for some of you on this podcast, you're sitting there going, you just need a kick in the butt like I did. You don't need to pray about it. You need to actually not pray about it. You actually already know you're being disobedient. You just need to go do it. Like there's no more, don't pray. Just do pray, but don't pray about this scenario. Just go and do it. And then for some of you, you just need to sit and hear his voice and be with him and realize that that's the goal anyway. The prize is that the one who created you wants to be with you, and he wants nothing from you. He wants nothing from you. He just wants to be with you. And let me say this. I think back to, for the first 2 years of my kids' lives, my kid could not mow the lawn. He could not cook food at nighttime. He could not bring in any money to pay rent. I changed his poops. I wiped his booty. I did all of that for him. And every day I fell in love with him more and more. There was nothing he could do to make me love him. Nothing. He couldn't even say, I love you until he was 2. And there was this love that I had because he was mine. He was my child. And I hope and pray for those of you that live in the context that I live in, or in the church, or speaking in Christians and love the Lord. Like, I hope that you have a revelation of that and you live from there, is that he just loves you. He's like giddy. He's so giddy about who you are and what he has and what he wants to do with you too. And so anyway, that's a little bit of what I'd say to that.
Amen, brother. Amen, brother. So good. I think we should end it there, dude. You took us to church.
Stuff.
We went to church. Let's pass the offering plate and let's get to lunch.
Let's go. All
yes.
right.
Ketric, thank you so much for sharing your heart, your wisdom. I think for many folks listening, you've pastored us today. You've encouraged us today. So I really appreciate it. And Jesse and I are both excited to see you in Mexico. And
I saw you on the list, Jesse. I can't wait to hang with you.
Dude, I'm pumped.
Yeah,
I'm pumped. Thank you.
Yeah, he also says he's been wearing some of that spandex that you initially wore in the Starbucks in Mexico.
Yes.
I'll bring you one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you got an extra.
Yeah, that was both an exhortation and a warning.
Yeah, exactly right.
I love it.
No, such good stuff, Ketric. Yeah, there's plenty of good-looking, charming people in this space, but you're good-looking, charming, and you've got the depth. The stuff is real, and it's been tested, and it's been tried, and it's the fact that you're expressing that to Teen Dream Center as well. Just thank you.
Yeah.
Very refreshing.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Indeed.
I love you both.
Love you, pal. See you.
All right.
See you in a few
Talk
weeks.
to you soon. All right.
Later.
Bye.